This video is based on a recent Daily Sceptic article. And it's concerning. A major rewriting of the science pushed on Wikipedia that is skeptical of the settled climate narrative is being funded by a number of governments from Scandinavia and the UK. And they are targeting the top Google searches on the skeptic. I quote from their report: "The improvement of the key articles making use of available scientific expertise is necessary." And the key word there is improvement. They want to improve on what the opposition to them states so as to bring them up with their version of science. Well, if that isn't a rewriting of history, nothing is. So who is to do these improvements? Well, apparently experts finding careers from nothing is what we have. The SEI project includes academics who have a scientific and climate change expertise. In fact, the expertise seems to tend towards the burgeoning world of eco-bureaucracy consultancy and green activism. The parties collaborate by revising and cutting text, proposing new content and adding new references. There is also interaction with published experts who advise us on necessary content edits. Wow, that is real Orwellian stuff there. So, who are these revising experts? Well, let's take a few of them as an example. The first being Christy L. Ebby from the University of Washington. Now, Christy is probably a very nice lady, but she seems to have a job like many others. That's really a non-job. She doesn't involve herself with the causes of climate change, but the effects of different climate changes. So as an example here, she will talk about what happens with forest fires and how they affect the health of people. But her work has nothing to do with the main subject, which is the causes of climate change and what is happening there. It's all about the effects on health, and she swallows hook, line and sinker the IPCC garbage that comes out. Not really a valid person to be editing the papers that she's now being asked to edit. I could, of course, save her a lot of time and effort by explaining to her that, like the USA, the wildfires are nowhere near like that of the past. They've been reducing. Or let's go bigger. Let's go to a worldwide scale where NASA admit that wildfires have incredibly reduced worldwide. So this is a job to study into something that is getting better, not worse. It's a non-job. She even studies the effects on health of sea level changes. Well, these are rising, as you can see here, ever since the last ice age. But they're rising at about 1 to 2 millimeters a year and have been doing so for thousands of years. Again, a study into a problem that doesn't exist. In fact, she even studies the mental health aspects of global warming. So probably I think she should maybe aim at all the alarmism and what mental effect that is causing, rather than, people like myself who are just pointing out the facts, the evidence and the science. Well, probably another nice lady, Elizabeth Gilmore of Carleton University. Again, looking into the effects on humans in different ways of climate change. And a big supporter, it seems, of Greta Thunberg. Now what does she say about Greta and the world of terrible things that's happening to students? Well, let's take a look. She recently wrote that after Greta Thunberg's demolished the delegates at COP24, I quote, "It has become increasingly apparent that university students feel that the brunt of multiple and interlinked existential crises of climate change, biodiversity and persistent inequality, inequity and economic precarity." Wow, we've now got climate change targeting just university students. Wow, incredible. But let's look at this support of Greta Thunberg. Let's look at the science very quickly behind Greta Thunberg.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Adults keep saying we owe it to the young people to give them hope. But I don't want your hope. I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day. And then I want you to act.
Mr. Chairman. Ms. Thunberg, thank you for your involvement here today. I commend you for your willingness to testify and get involved with public policy. In the past, when you're talking about climate change, you have said, quote, "I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day." Is there what particular study or scientific report did you read that made you come to this conclusion?
Thank you for your question. First of all, let me just clear that those are metaphors. In speeches, you often use metaphors. Of course, I don't mean literally that I want people to panic. So there was no scientific study that made me come to that conclusion.
Well, there we are. No science at all behind the little girl who was so powerful she could address the UN, etc., just demonstrating the falsehood of the entire climate change movement. But I object to these people trying to rewrite history. I really, really do. And I object to having to pay my tax money, my tax pounds, towards supporting such people in such non-jobs. I'm sure those ladies are quite nice people in themselves, but they're living in a bubble, an eco-bubble, that the jobs really aren't real. But it gets worse than this. It gets worse than rewriting that way. Let's now go to the WEF and the UN. Recently, the UN, under Secretary of Global Communications, Melissa Fleming, told delegates at the World Economic Forum disinformation seminar, and by the way, that's a laugh, the disinformers are having disinformation seminars, but I'll continue, that her government had partners with Google to ensure only UN-approved climate search results appear at the top. In chilling tones, she explained, "We are becoming more proactive. We own the science, and the world should know it." A truly chilling statement from somebody who does not even begin to understand what science is. Enter stage right, Klaus Schwab, the self-appointed head of the World Economic Forum, an organization that has no democratic foundations whatsoever and basically plans to have single world government. It's the organization that sponsors ideas like the 15-minute city that lock you down into your home. And they even now sponsor permanent climate lockdowns. This whole idea of climate alarmism is based on CO2 being the bad boy and the climate being controlled by it. It's actually absurd. And what they do is scare you with model predictions. The model predictions, all of which are being proved wrong, with one exception, possibly the current Russian model, which is showing no warming. And it actually agrees with the satellite and balloon observations of the atmosphere and the temperature, which have leveled out now for years. So how they can get away with this, I just don't know. But the WEF and what they're doing now is censoring the past, is rewriting the history. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing, and no one seems to be reacting enough to it. It's not science anymore. It is pure politics, and pure politics of control, leading to climate lockdowns? Will you be locked down to save your CO2 emissions? Because once they got this idea that CO2 is the culprit into the system, and they've done very well so far, once they've got that CO2 as the control knob, then that controls your life in every aspect. It controls what you eat, what we grow, it controls everything. Transport, it controls how you heat your home, everything is controlled by it. It's a marvellous excuse for worldwide government and worldwide control. It is absolutely ridiculous, and it has to be stopped. I know the West is now beginning to get a bit edgy about it, beginning to re-examine bits of it, but until we drop the entire thing, and until we start voices being heard on the media that CO2 is a good thing, we need more of it, and you don't hear that at all, except from me, by the way. Until we get into that situation, we're not going to put it right. We're going to mess about with, now the government's saying that we're going to do a little more oil exploration. By the way, taxing the oil people so much that they may not want to do it. But that is the situation that we're in. And it's a situation that people have got to wake up and realise. So I'm going to end this video with my main messages that I always end it with about, the danger of voting in any governments that want net zero. We've got to vote against it. And I will just leave you, first of all, with a quote from George Orwell. And I think it sums the current situation up extremely well. Thank you for watching. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. That's George Orwell from 1984 that he published in 1949.